ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome. I'm Roger Stone, and we're back. It's the Roger Stone Show, and joining me now is Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort is a political consultant and government affairs professional whose career spans 5 decades and who has always been devoted to furthering the interests of the United States on the world stage. As campaign chairman for Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, Paul Manafort is the man who put into place the structure that delivered the nomination and eventually the general election of President Donald J. Trump. Between 1975 and 1980, Paul Manafort worked on the campaigns of President Gerald Ford and President Ronald Reagan, playing a key role in the nomination and election of Reagan in 1980. I know because I was there, working alongside him. In 1981, Paul Manafort and I co-founded Black Manafort and Stone, and in 2009, he founded his current company, DMP International. I am honored to have my longtime friend, one of the most skilled political operatives and analysts in America today, Paul Manafort, join us on the Roger Stone Show.
Roger, it's great to be with you.
Full disclosure here, I first met Paul Manafort at the 1970 Connecticut State Republican Convention. We were both supporting Congressman Tom Meskel for governor. Meskel went on to be one of the greatest governors in Connecticut history, something he doesn't get credit for. We were colleagues in college Republicans in the D.C. area. Then in 1977, Paul, who was elected national auditor of the Young Republicans, was supposed to run for Young Republican national chairman, and I was supposed to manage his campaign. But because Paul had a very attractive offer to work for President Gerald Ford, and because the bulk of the people in our electoral coalition within the Young Republicans supported a challenge by Governor Ronald Reagan, we decided to change places. And therefore, I became a candidate for Young Republican National Chairman, and Paul Manafort very ably managed my campaign. He did insist that I had to smile if I was going to be a candidate.
And you even did it for a little while, Roger. That was the impressive thing.
for a little while. You were always better candidate material than I was. Look, Paul, you and I have been through the meat grinder, as our friend General Michael Flynn. I don't want to focus on the past here. I really want to focus on the future. But after spending $30 million, the Mueller investigation never turned up any evidence of Russian collusion. The false narrative that is constantly recycled is that you gave polling information to a man named Konstantin Kilimnik, and that Kilimnik was a Russian intelligence asset who presumably passed that information on to Vladimir Putin. The problem with that narrative, reading from your own book, Political Prisoner, Persecuted, Prosecuted, but Not Silenced, by Paul Manafort. Folks, you can get that at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. It's an extraordinary book of perseverance, faith, and survival. But based on your book and also the investigative reporting of Matt Taibbi, not exactly a conservative, I don't believe that Konstantin Kilimnik was a Russian asset at all. In fact, I think it's far more likely that he was a U.S. intelligence asset. Tell us about this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, the Mueller people knew that as well. Kalemnik, actually Kalemnik's career in the activities over with me started when I hired him from working for John McCain when he was the number 2 person at the International Republican Institute in Moscow for McCain. And I brought him on because I needed somebody to help me in Ukraine. Konstantin was constantly dealing with not just the United States, but Germany and the UK at their request, and was a source to them, such an important source to the State Department in the United States that they actually gave him a code name. And Mueller had all this information. There's not one iota of evidence other than the fact that Konstantin served in the military that he was required to do for 2 years before he left and went into the private world. Except for that contact, there's not one bit of evidence that he had anything to do with Russian intelligence, Russian military, or anything else. But they had nothing, and that was the problem. Mueller needed some hook for the fictitious collusion that you and I fought for 5 years, and so they just used that. And all the cable traffic of the U.S. government from Kiev to Washington about things that Kalemnik was helping them on were ignored. And in fact, today, almost everything from my trial has been made public, except for that cable traffic. Because if they let that cable traffic come out, it would very clearly identify if Kalemnik was working for anybody, he was working for the United States, not Russia. And in fact, the other thing, and I say this in my book, and then I can move on. Yeah, when I was working with Yanukovych, who, by the way, is the reason why Ukraine was in the process of becoming a part of Europe. My activity with Yanukovych, other than electing him, was working with the Europeans to bring Ukraine into Europe, and they knew everything that he was doing to bring Ukraine into Europe. The ugly secret was that Angela Merkel really didn't want Ukraine in Europe because it was going to undercut Germany's influence, and also because she was being pressured by Putin to not let Yanukovych bring Ukraine into the European Union. Notwithstanding all of that, the American people, Mueller knew all of this. He knew all the activity. It was all public information. They ignored all of that. And so there was no, if there was any Russian record, it was what I was doing against Putin and what Kalemnik was doing for the U.S. But you haven't seen those records because they're not released in my trial.
One more question about the past, and I want to talk about Campaign 2024. Looking back at all the government cases and charges against you, in which they essentially took 15-year-old financial charges, which had been rejected earlier for lack of evidence, and recycled them. No charge pertaining to Donald Trump and no real charge pertaining to Russian collusion. And now you look at the kid glove treatment of the IRS, but more precisely of the government regarding Foreign Registration Act violations. What are your thoughts about this double standard? You were falsely charged of violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act. You never actually lobbied. You did hire others to lobby or persuade your client to hire others, notably former Congressman Vin Weber and Tony Podesta, the brother of campaign manager for Hillary Clinton, John Podesta. They did actually lobby, yet neither one of them was charged. What do you say about the fact that Hunter Biden, the evidence of which is overwhelming, has lobbied for foreign interests, did not file with FARA, appears to me to be in violation, but is yet to be charged?
Roger, you're actually absolutely right. Every charge they brought against me, I had been cleared of prior to the special counsel ever existing, and by the bureaucracies, by the IRS bureaucracy, by the Treasury bureaucracy, and by the DOJ FARA bureaucracy. I actually had an agreement with FARA where they recognized that I did nothing wrong, no criminal, no civil penalties, nothing, that Mueller threw out. the agreement when he took office. So yes, you're right. Everything that they came at me on I had been cleared on. And ironically, when you look at what's going on with Hunter Biden, he has on his laptop direct evidence of lobbying. I mean, emails, meetings, contacts with people in the State Department that he was setting up for other people to meet with that are clear violations. And the problem that Hunter Biden has, and this is what the White House is protecting him of, is that if they are able to charge him for FARA violations, and if they bring the conspiracy arguments that they concocted for me, the same arguments, just changing the names, there's a path of evidence on his laptop on every one of the charges, which will allow them to pierce the statute of limitations, to go back at all of the activity in 2010, 11, 12, where he was not paying taxes, and get into the tax records from there that will probably have a very damning story to tell about the Biden enterprise and what corruption was going on with the family. So they've got a real problem. And all they've got to do is just take all the statutes they went against me on, charge Hunter with the same issues, and look at the laptop, and it's there. All the evidence is there.
Parents of twins, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
In Italian, the word Manafort means strong hand. And I must say, your book, Political Prisoner, Persecuted, Prosecuted, but Not Silenced, by Paul Manafort, is a testimony to your strength as a person, as a man, but also you're very candid about how your faith in Jesus Christ helped you and your family through this crucible. I really highly recommend this book. You lived through hell. And you live to tell about it. You're in excellent spirits, and I God bless you and your wife for your survival. My wife and I know a little bit about what this is like, but nothing compared to you. Our late friend Lee Atwater, what do you think he would think of our politics today? Specifically, what would he think of the Biden campaign bypassing Iowa and New Hampshire and going straight to Lee Atwater's home state of South Carolina?
Well, he would actually, I think, admire the fact that they have the courage to just thumb their nose at the whole process and do it their way. Atwater always was one that, as you know, would push the envelope on whatever he thought was necessary to win. And I think the Biden tactics of what he did in 2020, hiding in the basement up in Delaware, And now what he's doing with the Democratic process, hijacking the whole nominating process to the point that he drove Robert Kennedy out of the primary. Atwater would say these guys are ruthless and they'll do anything to win. And certainly, where they would probably go beyond Atwater is Atwater, as you know, always had a standard of keeping things inside the boundary of what the facts were. The Biden White House doesn't do that at all. And it just amazes me that they could continue to stand up there and talk about the border is closed and Bidenomics is making everybody's life better, and there is no crime problem on from all these illegal immigrants that are here. It's just amazing to me how he is so bold in fighting the truth. And what he doesn't understand, I know you believe because you and I have run these kinds of campaigns, is we know that the truth ultimately comes out. And if you just stay on the message and get it out there, it's going to come out. And Biden is going to be, we've seen the floor fall off. As I say when I speak around the country, this reminds me a lot of 1980 with the Reagan-Carter race, as you remember, which was a very close race for most of the race. And Carter was winning for most of the time. And it wasn't until the only debate happened when people got a chance to hear Reagan, but then finally realized that they had to make a choice, that the floor fell out from Carter and Reagan won a historic victory, landslide victory. Well, I mean, that floor fell out from Biden in the last month. Unfortunately, it's not a couple of weeks before the election. It's a year before the election. But I had that same sense and feeling in the last month as all of a sudden these, the polls, not the ballot question, which of course happened, but the internals of those polls showing, what the issue agenda of the American people is, showing how they rate Trump, showing how they rate Biden on that issue agenda, and consistently Trump is favored over Biden on all of the major issues. And it's just a matter of time before people say enough. And I think they've reached that point. The fact that Biden believes he can win and has hijacked the Democratic Party's nominating process to keep him from having any competition, I give him credit for it, because I think if there was any competition that was real out there, he would have had problems. I think Robert Kennedy could have given him a problem. And as a result, he's going to be nominated and he's going to be very weak nominee. He's not going to have the benefit of the nomination process strengthening him because the American people have really stopped listening to what he says.
Nobody knows more about the Republican Party presidential nominating system than you do. Is this contest for the nomination over?
Yes, it's been over for a while. I mean, the Trump campaign is really running a brilliant campaign. I mean, there's a lot that they're doing that you're not seeing or hearing about because it's the mechanics of politics, not the public relations of politics. But the campaign manager, Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita, they have been dealing with the arcane rules of how delegates are going to be selected. They've tightened the rules up in states. They've improved situations in states. For example, in California, they worked with the party out there to establish a rule that if a candidate gets 50% of the primary vote, he gets all of the delegates. Not proportionate, but all of them. Well, they've moved California up in the calendar dates. Trump can be the nominee, really, right after Super Tuesday, if everything the way it's shaking out. But even if there was some slippage somewhere, which I don't see, they have run a very strong delegate hunt operation where they're going to get more than their fair share of delegates out of every one of the states, unlike what was going on in 2016 when I came on board. What was going on in 2016, as you know, is the Cruz campaign was running a second ballot campaign. Their attitude was to stop Trump on the first ballot and then have the second ballot have free all the delegates to vote their conscience. And what Cruz was doing was where Trump was winning the primaries, Cruz was electing delegates that some of whom would be for Donald Trump in the first ballot by law, but would be freed after the first ballot to vote whoever they wanted. So Trump could have had 55% of the delegates committed to him, but he wouldn't have had 55% of the bodies of the delegates. And Cruz's strategy was to find a way to chip Trump down under the 50% margin. And as you know, through rules, processes, and platform challenges, there are ways to do that. And they have their strategy. And they could have denied Trump the nomination. Unfortunately for them, I knew how to do this, and we were able to bring on people as well in enough time to complement Trump so that what he was winning at the ballot box, he was keeping at the delegate phase, which is all I really did. I mean, he was winning the delegates, but he was going to get cheated out of the benefit of winning from the process. And we kept that from happening, and he got in the end, when it was clear that Cruz's strategy was going to fail, we were able to work with the Republican, with Reince Priebus, and who wanted to have a Republican president, needed to have a Republican president elected, and we were able to put together a presumptive nominee strategy that got Trump what he deserved to get and ended any kind of serious fight at the convention.
If you're just tuning in, folks, this is the Roger Stone Show, and I am interviewing Paul Manafort, a political operative, political consultant, and public affairs professional, the man who I still believe more responsible for anyone other than Donald Trump himself, because he beat back that coalition of Ted Cruz, the Bushes, and John Kasich at the convention, who had a second ballot strategy to steal the nomination. By the way, it happened before, folks. In 1952, Robert Taft showed up in Chicago with more than enough votes to be nominated on the first ballot, but a clever strategy in the credentials and rules committees of that convention ended up nominating Dwight Eisenhower, who went on to become president. Paul, I'm sure you saw that West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has dropped out of the Senate race. He seems to be openly flirting with the No Labels ballot initiative. I hear that our old partner, Charlie Black, who used to be a Republican, now actively involved in that No Labels effort. Do you think Joe Manchin is going to, as an independent, perhaps with Mitt Romney as his running mate?
I have thought for the last year that Manchin would not run for re-election and would take a look at the No Labels ticket. I think he's going to see where they get on the ballot. If they don't get on the ballots anywhere, I think he'll do what he always does, which is dance, but not dance around, but not make a final decision. However, if they got on enough ballots, I think he will run, and I don't fear him. But I think he wants to run. And I don't think he cares. He'd like to win, but I don't think if he can enhance himself in his mind by running and looking like a savior, even if he doesn't win, I think that plays to his personality. So I have every expectation that if they get on the ballot in enough of the states, that he will be a candidate, and I think he would probably be the one they would naturally go to.
Holiday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Holiday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Holiday. Holiday, bring it on.
I'm Cindy Lauper with fellow Cosentix advocate, Chef Michelle Bernstein.
We'll share our experiences with plaque psoriasis, with psoriatic arthritis, and Dr. Panico will talk about the possible connection.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis 300 milligram dose and adults with active psoriatic arthritis 150 milligram dose. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur.
Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com/Cindy.
BTW FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustable implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision-crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision-crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
You have a long history in Ukraine. You understand the geopolitics of that part of the world. What, in your opinion, is the answer to resolve this and stop the killing?
Well, the problem in Ukraine has been that, Biden is trying to make it look like he's this great war president. The problem is everything he's done has been too late. He talks the game, but he doesn't deliver until the moment has passed for the delivery to be impactful. Everybody understood that last summer was going to be the critical time for Zelensky and the Ukrainians to penetrate the lines that the Russians had put along the eastern coast, and they understood what they needed to do that, from planes to armored tanks that could break through. And Biden talked the game, but didn't deliver any of what they needed. So as a result, they didn't make the progress they needed to make this summer. And we're now in truly a quagmire situation because the Ukrainians are suffering, and Putin is just playing a waiting game. Unfortunately, I don't see a positive situation coming out of it. I think there's going to be we're going to need to have a strong president. As long as Biden is president, this war is just going to, meander on. Putin is going to wait. I think Putin will try and do some negotiating with Biden sooner than now that the summer offensive has failed, because I think he's afraid to have to face President Trump again. In the consequences of what that'll mean. So I expect to see Putin working with the Europeans to put pressure on Zelensky. Biden is going to talk the talk, but he's not delivering anything that's going to have any impact at all. Nobody fears what he's saying, and he's going to be distracted by what's going on in the Gulf, where he's mismanaging that as well now.
All right, unfortunately, we are out of time. Let me thank Paul Manafort and highly recommend to you his book, Political Prisoner, Persecuted, Prosecuted, but Not Silenced. You can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Again, Political Prisoner, Persecuted, Prosecuted, and Not Silenced by Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort, thank you for joining us on The Roger Stone Show.
Roger, it's great being with you again.